For me personally, joy is a sense of playfulness and creativity. It's not just feeling happiness or contentment. It's all of the feelings wrapped up together. My body was just flooded with adrenaline and I was shaking. That was the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. And they said, "Oh no, you have to get back up and do it again because otherwise you never will." And it's remained one of the high points of my life. When we surprise ourselves, that is such an amazing kind of joy because that speaks to that connection that we didn't know was there with our own deeper knowing, our own intuition, our own sense of play.
You're listening to Solving for Joy. I'm your host, Dr. Chrissie Ott. Welcome to the Solving for Joy podcast. This is our third episode, and I'm so excited to welcome my dear friend, colleague, Liz Heichelbech. I wanted to have Liz on the podcast early on because she is such an exemplar of joy and a very colorful path of solving for joy. Liz is an author, an artist, an educator, and a creativity coach. She has excelled in intuitive art making. She has had adventures in dance. She has had adventures in improv, and she loves helping others experience the benefits of process-based art ventures across a range of disciplines. I could say so many more things about Liz's history as an educator, instructional design coach, and maven of creativity, but I will let Liz speak for herself. Liz, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Chrissie.
I would love to start with the most, one of my favorite meet cute friend stories in the world, which is how Liz and I got to be in each other's lives.
Okay, my version is that it was a rainy Saturday, of course, in Portland. And my then partner said, "Hey, there's this neighborhood, beautification thing that we should go to." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine, whatever." And we got there and we were transferring plants into a planter. And there was this really interesting, amazing couple of humans that I immediately felt drawn to. And if I remember correctly, Chrissie, I believe you informed us that we were coming over to dinner. And in fact, you were correct.
I don't remember the informing part, but it tracks. That does track.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were doing a planter at an intersection near our former house, and we were putting together mosaic tiles on the sides of said planters, and we had no idea going to this like extroverted neighborhood beautification day that we were about to take home some of our favorite people in the whole wide world.
Samesies.
We had many, many delightful adventures ever since.
There was the Chrissie games. There was the eating pie with our hands debacle. There was a performance of Swan Lake in your kitchen. I mean, and that's just the barest minimal sampling.
Just a sampling. Yes, I'll never forget that Liz is the person who first taught me that you can actually go at a pie with a spoon in the center. That is an example of a constant that turns out to be a variable. I thought you had to cut the pie into triangular slices, but no, some people break that rule. I love it. I would love to start, Liz, with a little bit about what you think of when you hear the word joy. What is joy like for you in your life these days and in your body?
For me personally, joy is a sense of playfulness and creativity. And I feel like joy has many shades of colors in it. It's not just feeling happiness or contentment. It's all of the feelings wrapped up together, but with the overarching feeling of being kind of at peace, but enthusiastic at the same time.
At peace enthusiastically.
Yes, yes, at peace enthusiastically.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, I heard a saying recently that for teenagers, especially, enthusiasm is the new social courage. That there's a vulnerability now in our current modern culture in being enthusiastic, and I don't let that stop me.
Mm.
Case in point, pie and a spoon.
Pie and a spoon. That's right. Did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that thought that you captured. Enthusiasm is the new vulnerability, right? It lets people see what we love. I feel really excited about this, which is a way of showing my truer, deeper self to you, which means that you have the
Mm.
power to um, hurt my feelings a little bit if I'm showing you what's real, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
makes it so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think especially in an era where we interact so much with screens, and much of that content is asynchronous. So that content is not going to interact back at us. So we're sort of practiced at being at a remove or being slightly detached.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no room for that when you're expressing your enthusiasm.
Yes. So much passive viewing,
Mm-hmm.
consumption of material.
Which, ironically, I have to think about this, but there are times when I am scrolling on social media that I do burst out laughing. But I have to say, after an episode of scrolling, I don't tend to feel joy. I
Mm.
feel joy after I've worked on the book that I'm writing, or after I've had a painting session, or after I've worked with a client using some sort of expressive art to help them explore a limiting belief and having them be visited by an insight. That is 100%, 110% joyful for me. Whereas watching a screen is never going to generate that same kind of energy and enthusiasm.
Mm. It makes me think of vigor. Like when you finish one of those highly satisfying activities, maybe there's an essence of contribution that's woven into the activity in
Mm.
some way, or
Mm-hmm.
interaction, contribution,
Mm-hmm.
sort of neighborhood. And there's a certain kind of vigor that follows, like an affirmingness of like, yeah, that was good.
Yes. And listening to you, Chrissy, I'm realizing like, oh, sometimes the activity itself might be a little bit uncomfortable or might be more of a challenge than I anticipated, but the feeling of having done it, that's pure joy. Uh-huh.
100%. I'm thrown into a patient encounter when I think about that. Like sometimes when you're in the midst of seeing patients, and I'm, speaking from my medicine world to make this analogy, obviously, the interaction might be very complex. You might be thinking about many dimensions of this person's experience using a lot of skill. And when it's executed well, according to your own decision tree, there is a sense of satisfaction, accomplishment. And when there's connectedness with it, I would say for many of us, there's joy. Unfortunately, many of the episodes of medicine are depleted of joy because of time and because of other factors, which are not what we're talking about today. But I really resonate with what you said.
I love that connectedness.
I've never gotten off of scrolling and felt like, wow, I really nailed that. And it was a contribution to the world.
Right.
I scrolled so efficiently for these last 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
even if I did,
Yes.
because I can scroll efficiently.
But I think you're onto something with that connectedness. That's whether it's connectedness with um, your own intuition or with other people. Whether that connection is for me, that connection is creative. When I'm in creative connection with myself and others, that is just when all my cylinders are humming. Um, so thank you for enriching my unfolding definition of what joy is.
Absolutely.
Connectedness is definitely part of it.
Yeah, it is fun to unfold this definition further and further. I think it contains so much. It contains multitudes.
It does. And nobody's wrong. That's what I love about this. Nobody's wrong. Whatever your definition of art is, whatever your definition of creativity or self-expression or joy, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun.
This is fun.
I would love it if you have a story to tell us about when joy was a little bit harder to find or solve for.
Oh my goodness. Well, there certainly have been a few. Two of them come to mind. One is being a middle school teacher for 20 years. Um, joy can be, it's like enthusiasm when it comes to young people. It can feel a little bit scary for them. And so trying to find ways to bring joy and creativity into the classroom, especially in a time where we have standards and we have rubrics and we have student exemplars and we have this very sort of linear path to success that we sort of are supposed to put forth in the classroom. And I'm wanting to bring in chance methods, for example, which I've borrowed from the Fluxus art movement of the 50s through the
Mm-hmm.
70s. I'll give you an example. I always wanted my students to feel like when they were doing writing, they were just playing with ink on paper. And so I'm not above a little bit of gadgetry and gimmickry. So I found an old magic hat in a trunk of costumes that I hadn't gotten rid of. And I wrote a bunch of different slips of on a bunch of different slips of paper, different ridiculous writing prompts. And I put them in the hat and I called it a magic hat. That was the name of the activity. So every Monday morning, to sort of ease the transition of going back into the machinery, we would do a magic hat. And I also had a magic wand because, again, not above props. And I would bring out the magic hat and I would wave the magic wand around it and I would choose someone and they had to summon the power and they would reach in and they would pull out and it was their job to read the today's writing prompt. And the prompt might be something like, "You are a sock. What is your life like?" So it was really playing with perspective and imagination. I was not going to make them sit and write a paragraph about a story that they had just read that had a topic sentence and the appropriate transitions and the conclusion. I would have to teach that, but I didn't want to start there because I didn't want them to lose their love of imagining and creating. And so I tried to think of writing prompts that could meet any child where they were at. And that became a real source of joy for all of us. And after they had 10 minutes of writing, they could share with partners and then they could be nominated to share with the whole group. And we entertained each other. And I also feel like that was a way of building community in my class. That helped me out a lot.
That is a beautiful story. I
Thank
am
you.
wanting to write a small paragraph about being a sock now.
Let's see. Some of the other favorites were you wake up and you have become whatever you dressed up as for Halloween. What happens? Or you wake up with a superpower. What happens? And I would try to get them to just write for 10 minutes without stopping. Don't care what the spelling is. Don't care even if you're just writing, I don't know what to write next, but just don't think, just play, just do. And then let's just see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. And then once we
Mm-hmm.
generated enough of these, then they could choose one to develop. And then we would start talking about the mechanics and the grammar and the spelling. But by then they had a text that they could invest in. So, yeah, just trying to bring creativity and joy into my classroom, which did become harder as time went on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm aware that we started this question with when was it hard to find joy, and you quickly went from 20 years as a middle school teacher, which like probably could have just been to like also including this gorgeous way that you included chance methods to teach language arts and writing through the skillful lens of a creative maven. And I also want to say, wasn't it Merce Cunningham who used chance methods in dance?
Yes.
Liz and I have dance backgrounds in common.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of that movement
Yes.
too, huh?
Yeah, very much so. And in fact, when I do drawing games, I will sometimes use dice as Merce Cunningham used. John Cage was a composer, and he also used chance methods to compose his music. And there's some inherent delight, even with adults who might be afraid of play, might be afraid of creativity or too much overt joy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's professionally
Mm-hmm.
threatening, or maybe it's just threatening to our predominantly rational left brain sorts of thinking. But there's something inherent about chance methods. It's freeing for people. It's kind of like how creativity kits are freeing for people because it narrows their choices so that they're not paralyzed with too many options. And the
Yes.
difference is that when it's a chance method, there's no predicting what it's going to be. So you're almost forced into a more intuitive approach,
Yeah.
a choice that you didn't know you would ever make. And I just think that that surprise, when we surprise ourselves, oh, that is such an amazing kind of joy because that speaks to that connection that we didn't know was there with our own deeper knowing, our own intuition, our own sense of play.
Yes. I want to say more about surprise. Um, but this is so valuable. I think this is so valuable for adults who have a ingrained limiting belief that they are quote unquote not creative. Um, if any of our listeners have the thought or the identity that I'm not creative or I'm not a creative, I would like to give a small plug here for Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, which reminds us
Mm-hmm.
that anything can be a creative act. A meal that we make, a conversation, the way we get dressed in the morning, the way we groom ourselves in general, uh, the way we move our bodies on the dance floor, like
Mm-hmm.
the way we work around a prior authorization for our patients is a creative act. Although you
Yes.
might have to stretch your brain a little bit to believe me, you will identify that there is creativity in problem solving all the way around 360 degrees. And because we were talking about chance methods, I love what you said about there being almost a little bit of safety in the
Mm.
chance method because you're
Mm-hmm.
not 100% responsible for the creative content. You're sharing it with um, randomness or chance.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and you mentioned dice
Mm-hmm.
following the Merce Cunningham. So I'm going to give people a little Easter egg here. I didn't know I was
Okay.
going to do this, okay? But when I attend conferences as an exhibitor through my coaching firm, Joy Point Solutions, I often give a very small tin of colored dice as swag. And inside the colored tin is a little sticker with a QR code that goes to a super secret website, which is not linked, but I'm going to give you the website. It is joypointsolutions.com/dice. And it is just like a very 5-second video about how dice are um, an excellent analogy to coaching and coaching tools, because when we roll the dice, we get random circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get a
Mm-hmm.
combination of circumstances, and then we have thoughts and feelings about those circumstances, or we are able to see them in either, a more optimistic, we see more possibility or less possibility. We have, hope, or we don't have hope. We respond, in other words, to the random set of circumstances in different ways based on many things, right? Our prior experiences, our level of optimism, how tired
Mm-hmm.
we are that day.
Mm-hmm.
And we repeat the game, like we move it forward, right? We do some action based on those thoughts and feelings about this random roll of the dice. So I think it's really fun. And the goal is to like have connected fun along the way, because presumably you're playing with another human being in order to enjoy time together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in our family, we play a lot of Farkle. That website has a link to the games of Farkle, to the game rules of Farkle.
Nice.
And that is my Easter egg for our listeners today. joypointsolutions.com/dice. Thank you for
Lovely.
that. And the surprise component of that, which is an awesome way to experience joy.
And there is so much that I love about that, but the word that is sticking with me right now is that it's secret. The website is secret. That is very
Yes,
joyous. Yeah,
it is really
love that.
fun.
Yeah, I think that the dice, our brains recognize that what dice are for, that they are for chance. And so it's not threatening. We've all played games with dice when we were younger. And so I feel like that automatically can shush our lizard brain a little bit. Our lizard brain that's there to protect us and keep us from making idiots out of ourselves, which is sometimes a little bit unfortunate because it's such great fun to make idiots out of ourselves. Um, being a middle school teacher will teach you that lesson over and over again. So yeah, it's sort of like it makes it legal to play. And when
Hmm.
you marry something like a chance method to something creative, for example, one of the games that I would play with my art students would be roll a drawing. And so a 6, you draw this kind of nose. A 2, you draw that kind of nose. And so it allows you to kind of enter into the creative space and the expressive space, but it's really the dice's fault if things go awry. It's not your fault.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
shared decision making.
Yes.
Liz led some of us in a Joy Point Solutions Happiness Hour last week in a chance method art artifact making journey, where
Mm-hmm.
we used a spinner chance methods to draw different prompts, and it really did lower the bar of like learning anxiety for many of us, or performance anxiety in the realm of mark making that we've been told since maybe around 9 or 10
Mm-hmm.
that maybe we shouldn't be quite so free with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Thank you for exploring that so much with me. I would love to know when joy took you by surprise.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Joy took me by surprise. Oh my goodness. This was decades ago, but it has stayed with me and it has stayed in my memory as one of the most joyous days I ever spent. I was working on a book. I was writing at a coffee house, and this crew of circus people came into the coffee shop, and I was just so interested and intrigued. And I was sitting at a table by myself, and
Wait, were you in Portland? I
no,
just need to know, were
no,
you in Portland,
I
Oregon?
was in Bloomington, Indiana. I was in
Okay.
Bloomington, Indiana, and so these circus folks came, and I offered them some seats because I had a table to myself, and we just started talking and laughing, and they were just so interesting and so playful and creative and so not typical, not conformists. And we just got to laughing, and they said, "Hey, we're going to head back. We have a rig in our backyard that has a giant trampoline. Do you want to come and jump on our trampoline?" And I thought, I don't know these people and I'm here to work on a book. And it would be really, really a stupid thing to just go and meet these strange people in their backyard. So, of course, I said yes immediately. And, and I ended up in their backyard and we were flipping on their trampoline. And they said, "Oh, wow, you're really a natural. You should come with us in our car to a trapeze rig that we have out in the country and do the flying trapeze." And at this point, I was already in so deep. I was like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to go and do the flying trapeze. And so I went to this rig and I climbed up this very rickety sort of rope stairs that's very unstable and twists and turns as you climb up it. And then I looked down. And it was really, really a long way down. And I started to question the wisdom of engaging in this particular unknown, playful activity, this adventure. And there were no harnesses or belts or anything. It was just like, okay, I've got this metal hook and I'm going to hook it to the back of your overalls and you're going to lean out over the platform. And when I say hup, I'm going to lift off this hook and you're going to swing. Okay. I am like drenched. I'm in a cold sweat. My hands are like slipping off the bar. I'm like, I think I made a mistake. And the trapeze artist behind me said, "Yeah, everybody says that. You'll be fine." And I said, "My hands are slipping off the bar. I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall." And he said, "Yeah, everybody always says that. You're going to be fine. Ready? Hup." And nothing happened. And he said, "Did you just hear me say hup?" And I said, "Oh, that hup. Yeah, right. Okay. So let's review. When I say hup, you're going to do a little jump and your feet are going to leave the platform and you're going to swing out over the net on this trapeze." Okay. Tried it again. He said hup. My body took over because my brain was saying, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And the next thing I knew, I was just whooping and laughing and chortling, swinging back and forth with no harness on this flying trapeze. I'd never done this in my life. And then they said, "Okay, so when you're at the top of the next arc, you're just going to lay back and let go and fall straight back into the net." And I did. And I fell straight back into the net and it felt like I was flying. And then after I got done, I was just I couldn't believe that I had just done this. And my body was just flooded with adrenaline and I was shaking. And I was like, "Wow, thank you so much. That was the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life." And they said, "Oh no, you have to get back up and do it again. Because otherwise you never will. You'll only brag about this one time." And I said, "Oh no, once was enough for me. I'm good." And he said, "Yeah, that's what everybody says. Get your ass up on the ladder." And it's remained one of the high points of my life. And if I hadn't just been sitting there at the coffee shop working on a book and noticing some circus people who came in, I never would have experienced the high flying trapeze.
Wow. Next time you come, I hope you can tell us a story that's just a little less boring. Oh my gosh,
Okay,
Liz, I'm
duly
on the
noted.
edge of my seat. Did you go again? Is the question that people want to know.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You are a
And
brave woman.
I was equally as terrified the second time. Don't ask me why. I think it goes back to that beginner's mind or like the chance method. You don't know what to expect. So you're like, "Okay, when he says up, I guess I'll just do a little jump and see what happens." But the second time I was like, "Oh crap." And I was still kind of shaking because I still had, I was flooded with adrenaline. But by the end of that afternoon, I was actually able to put my legs up on the bar and swing from my knees. And then the very last thing we did, and it was starting to get dark, so it was the last thing that we did. I got to do a catch with another trapeze artist. Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Yep.
So now we can add trapeze artist to your list of accomplishments. I would like for you to formally add this to your bio.
Okay.
And this is Liz Heichelbech, everyone, published author, creativity coach, educator, dancer, and trapeze artist.
For a day.
Okay.
For a day.
In the show notes for today's episode, I would love to share information about how people can find you if they would like to experience an art venture or talk to you about coaching or any of the other things that you do. So, would you like to share a little bit about that before I sign us off?
Oh, absolutely. So I do have a website, and on that website, you can view my artwork, you can read some of my creative writing, you can download a copy of my book, and all sorts of fun things. And what I love doing the most is creativity coaching. Now, I coach people who call themselves creative. So I call them the curiously creative. And I also coach the creatively curious. So people who are like, well, I think I might want to do something creative, but I'm not sure what. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be any good at it, but So I like to coach those people too. And I've even coached people who claim not to be creative. And we can do creative work and we can do life coaching work using expressive art methods. And it truly is such a joy. We laugh, we discover new things. You will be surprised, as will I. And it's why I love doing this work so much. So my website is called Creative Insights, and it's spelled INCITES, creativeinsights.com. And I would love to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you for the creative act of this conversation. It was definitely a way of solving for joy for me. And I would like to also just plug the existence of your current book, the title of which is Chopin in Kentucky. I thought your book was a laugh out loud experience. And I'd love for you to describe to our audience a little bit more about your protagonist and the story.
Yes, a talent-free young dancer with naturally stringy hair and legal blindness in one eye, growing up in small town Kentucky. And her best friend happens to be a dead composer of tragic piano music. So in it, there is some autobiographical element, but to my delight, when I started working on the story, I thought it was going to be a memoir, and then Chopin showed up, and then an Elvis impersonator showed up, and the next thing I knew, the story was insisting on having its own way. So,
Hilarity
um,
ensued. So, our SEO words for this episode will involve Elvis impersonator, trapeze artist, solving for joy, and prior authorization.
and let's not forget the creativity inherent in using non-traditional, should we say, chance methods of eating pie.
Absolutely. Liz, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And could you share a couple of suggestions or actionable items for people who are feeling creatively curious, especially if it's been a while, about how to reconnect with their own inner creativity and explore that a little bit?
I would love to. At the top of the podcast, we were talking about how, and your own definition for creativity is inherently correct. You can't really get that wrong when it comes to making personal meaning. So, whatever you define as being creative, throw some chance methods in there. You don't know what to cook, roll a dice, see what comes up. You can't draw, roll a dice and assign different shapes to see what you will draw. You can't draw a straight line. Excellent. Crooked lines are so much more interesting. Or you could always use a ruler. But I say practice drawing with your eyes closed. and then see what you come up with. I would say anything that introduces a little bit of novelty into your life can only be helpful. Talk to someone at work that you don't typically talk to. Take a different way to get to work, or take your family on a drive without knowing where you're going. I think both of those things can bring a lot of joy for a pretty low investment.
Mm, thank you for those. And one more time, where can people connect with you if they would like to experience art ventures and creativity coaching?
They can find me at www.creativeinsights.com. They can also find me inside joypointsolutions.com, where I am also a creativity coach.
Thank you, Liz. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Likewise.
Thanks so much for joining me and Liz today in conversation on Solving for Joy. Join us next time, where we will have the most delightful time with the Creative Laureate of Portland, my dear friend and inspiring colleague, Joaquin Lopez. Just a quick reminder, our fall cohort for the 12 by 12 coaching program is filling up quickly. We begin September 28th, so if you are still thinking about that, please reach out to us and see if we can get you a spot. I wanted to also share that because we are always looking for ways to make what we do accessible and impactful to more people, we just imagined a new offering called 30 Days of Creative Wisdom. Starting October 8th, we are going to go live on Zoom for 30 minutes every day for 30 days. And each of the coaches in the Joy Point Solutions coaching team are going to offer insights, tools, and teachings during that 30 minutes every day. Yes, there will be playbacks. Of course, no one's going to be available every day at noon. And it's only $30. Just $30 for 30 days of creative wisdom. I cannot wait to see where this takes us, how many beautiful conversations and connections we get to make. There will be a link in the show notes if that excites you. Please come and join us. If you're curious to learn more, head over to joypointsolutions.com. And if you have any questions or ideas for the podcast, we'd love to hear from you at solvingforjoy@joypointsolutions.com. I want to take a moment to acknowledge my incredible team. Our music today is by Dennis Kishcook, cover photography by the talented Shelby Bracken, and this podcast is produced by the amazing Kelsey Vaughn. Post-production and more are handled by Alyssa Waltz and my executive assistant, Rachel Osborne. And last but not least, a shout out to my loyal champion, #1 fan, the one and only Suzanne Sanchez. Thanks again for tuning in. May we continue caring for ourselves and others, and may we continue solving for joy.